So,
Yeah.
but yeah, I'm going to kind of let this conversation flow as it will based on the questions. So we're open to any territory, but I'll begin at the top
Yep.
again. It's great to meet you. Thank you for taking a minute out today. I appreciate it.
Okay, great.
And then,
Thanks.
but yeah, you bet. And the first question is, how did you get through the pandemic? The last 3.5 years was quite heavy. How did you get through that time period, and how did it change you?
Yeah, the last 3.5 years, the whole COVID pandemic was huge. It upended everything. I got sick right at the beginning. I think I was one of the first people that ever got COVID, and I had been on an airplane, and the guy behind me was hacking up a lung, and I'm like, this is not good. So I got home, and then I got really sick, and I mean, I got really sick. I ended up in the emergency room at the hospital, and nobody really, this was February of 20, I guess. And nobody was really tracking. I mean, COVID was out there, but nobody was really thinking that it was going to be the deal that it was. And they tested me for flu and all that, and they didn't know exactly what it was. So I'm pretty sure I got it then. I've had it 3 times.
Wow.
Um, but once it really started to hit, it changed everything. I was running a business, a commercial janitorial business. We had about 150 employees, and golly, we were working in colleges and universities and manufacturing facilities and government buildings, and a lot of them started shutting down. So we were able to get a PPP loan, and we were able to keep our people employed, which was great. Um, but a lot of people really struggled with that. It changed the labor force considerably. To this day, it's not back.
Yeah.
Um, People just don't work the same way that they did. Um, I was watching a an episode. They have a new monk. Um, you remember the guy from TV? They have a new monk
Yeah. I watched
movie.
the movie. Yeah. I
Yeah,
like that show.
and in the movie he says everybody's me now
Yeah.
because they're all wiping their hands, and,
Yes.
and
What a great time to release that.
and I was like, yeah, that's really true.
Yeah.
But it was a tough time. I lost my mom during that time to COVID. Um, and I'm a retired pastor of a church, and our church wasn't meeting. We everything went to Zoom, everything went online. And that's really hard. It upended that. It really, the education thing for the kids. I don't think our kids are over that at all. And we still have schools that are struggling with it. I mean, every now and then I see a school, shutting down for a while, or they're going to remote learning again. And I think it really harmed the education of our kids. So it upended everything. The government changed, the the values that everybody had, that whole work ethic, that built America kind of thing, that is has changed significantly. So it's weird to live through a pandemic. The last time it happened was before I was born. And I mean, the common cold that we have today is what's left over of the 1918 pandemic. Um, in the business I was in, commercial janitorial, we were dealing with all the trying to sanitize everything and trying to make sure that people had a safe environment to be in. So I learned everything and more that I wanted to know about that. And we were actually one of the places we worked was the National Institutes of Health here in the Research Triangle Park in North Carolina. And holy smokes, I mean, that place was a ghost town, and they're the ones trying to deal with this. Um, so yeah, I think it fundamentally changed our society, and we're not going back. I
No.
think people thought, oh, well, when this is over, everything will just kind of go back to the way it was. Nope, that's not happening. It frayed a lot of relationships, um, and I think that's real difficult. I think a lot of the we already had, the big political divide in our country, and it's not just political; it's philosophical and all that. But I think it made it much worse.
Yeah.
Uh, people just became real entrenched in their positions. And on the whole COVID debate, people dug in on one side or the other. You got to wear masks. I don't want to, I'm not wearing a mask. You got to get vaccinated. I'm not getting vaccinated. And it was like there was no grace for anybody else's opinion.
Yeah,
So we became, I think it pushed the divisions in our country even farther than they were. Um, and we're still seeing the fallout from that.
absolutely. So let's get to the heart and soul of what you do for a living. I'm going to put you in front of a bunch of third grade students. It's career day. And one of the kids says, "Hey, what do you do for a living?" How do you answer that child?
Yeah, well, what I'm doing for a living right now is I'm semi-retired. We sold our business, and now I'm an author. I actually just had my first book published. It was released on January 16th. I'm a retired pastor. I was double, I had two different jobs during the time, but I've been a lot of things in my life. I have a master's degree in music, voice performance. I have played in bands since I was a kid, and I still play in bands. And I do a lot of different things. And I think I wish more people would consider that you don't have to. Who we are is not what we do.
Yeah,
Um, and if you have an interest, pursue it.
yeah,
But yeah, so what I do now is primarily, I guess, I still do business consulting. Um, but primarily I'm an author, speaker. I travel around and talk about my book, and I talk about things about the church. I travel a lot around the world. I work with Christian people in countries where they are heavily persecuted. I spend a lot of time in the Middle East and Central Asia. Um, so those are the things that occupy my time now, and I'm in a good place in life.
yeah, for sure. So what did you want to be in the third grade? What was your dream?
Gosh, what did I want to be in the third grade? Probably a cowboy. I don't know.
Okay.
I grew up in South Arkansas. I don't know that I had real clearly defined goals back then, and I've bounced around all through my life. When I first went to college, I thought I was going to be an opera singer. Well, I'm glad that went another direction. I did do that for a while, but it's hard to make a living being an opera singer, especially these days.
Yeah, probably in this country too. Maybe in Europe it'd be a little different.
In Europe, it's easier. I have a lot of friends that went and had great careers in Europe, and lived there for 30, 40 years,
Yeah,
singing in professional opera houses. And that's a regular job. You get state benefits, all that kind of stuff. But
yeah.
yeah, I went in a different direction.
So as a musician, what was the first live show you ever saw that blew you away?
The first live show I ever saw, golly.
Or even the one that had the most profound impact when you were
Well,
young?
I don't know if I remember the first live show. I saw Yes,
Yeah.
with, with the Doobie Brothers.
Oh, wow.
Um, yeah, that'll open your eyes.
Yeah, well,
Um, yeah, that one had a big impact on me. I was a big Jethro Tull fan.
yeah,
Saw them several times because I was a band geek. I played in the band, and I could play the flute, so I
yeah,
thought that was cool. Stand on one leg and play the flute, kind of deal.
yeah,
Um, yeah, so I went to see the big shows,
yeah,
when I was a kid. We were like I said, I was in a small town in South Arkansas. We'd travel to the big town of Little Rock,
yep,
so that we could go see the concert.
for sure, for sure.
Yeah,
We have the same thing here. A lot of little satellite towns will come up to Kansas City to catch a show. So yeah, it's the same thing.
sure.
So who's been a hero for you in your life?
My dad, first and foremost. My dad was an amazing guy. He was in World War II. He fought under Patton against the Africa Corps, against Rommel and the Africa Corps. They won that campaign. Went and invaded Sicily, won that campaign, and then he was at D-Day. And my dad was at Omaha Beach on day two. Everybody at day one died, everybody. And my dad went in on day two. He was wounded, and that ended the war for him. But then he came home, and my dad suffered. Today, we would say it was PTSD. Nobody would have called it that back then.
Yeah,
My dad suffered with that most of the rest of his life, but he got over it toward the end. My dad passed away on July 4th,
Wow.
one month away from his 98th birthday.
Wow.
But my dad, worked a regular job. He was in the appliance business, did that pretty much all his life. But my dad also coached Babe Ruth League baseball for about almost 70 years.
Wow.
And he was the oldest Babe Ruth coach in America. And every time I would go back to Arkansas to visit my dad, there were always these guys that would come in, and they were anything from teenagers up to guys my age. And they were always, anywhere we went in town, everybody knew my dad, and he changed so many people's lives. They would always tell me stories, man, when I was in high school, I was a screw up. I was doing drugs. I was this, that, and the other. Your dad literally saved my life. I heard that story a lot,
Wow.
and so yeah, he was one of my biggest influences. He had issues because of the PTSD, but he did not let those hold him back,
Yeah.
and he became a mentor to many kids, and so that's been a big influence on my life. My wife and I have been foster parents, and that's probably a lot coming out of that.
Yeah.
Um, and we
That's
still work
wonderful.
with kids today. So,
That's great. So, if you could meet anybody alive on the planet right now, someone inspirational, who would you love to meet and talk to?
yikes, anybody alive on the planet right now? That is a good
Mhm.
question. I don't know that I've ever given that any thought.
Okay, we can come back to it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let me think about that one a minute because
Yeah.
there's a lot of people.
Yeah, there is. So you've been very diverse in your life. You've been a business owner, you've been in the church, you've been in music. There's a lot of varied interests. You're obviously very adventurous. What has been your drive and motivation? What gets you out of bed every day? What gets you to evolve and be who you are?
Yeah. The thing that gets me out of bed every day now is that, so I gave my life to Jesus Christ when I was 15 years old. I did a good job with that for about 3 years. I was in a band. We traveled around the United States. We sang what we call Jesus music back during the Jesus Revolution days. Probably saw the movie.
Yeah.
And we did all that stuff. And then I went to college and the wheels kind of came off. And for the next 12 years, I just kind of lived like hell. And then I met my wife, the lady who would become my wife. We met. We were working at a dinner theater in Orlando, Florida, and we loved each other more than we thought was humanly possible. We both had kind of a church background, and I think we both realized that God was still there and that He loved us. And so we started following Him again, and that's really it. I try to keep my focus on God and what He's doing. I look around at our world today, and I see how badly people need God. How much we need the love of God, how much we need to depend on Him and understand that there's bigger things outside of our government or our problems or the economy or something like that. And so it raises my sights. I get up every day, I read the scriptures every day, and I get challenged by that. I pray all the time, and then I try to go where I feel like God's leading me. And sometimes that's some unusual places. I'm not a very religious person in that sense. I don't have these set of rules or standards. I just try to go where God leads, and try to represent Him here the way I think He wants to be represented. The church hadn't always done a good job of that.
Yeah.
Um, there's a lot of, and that's one of the reasons I wrote the book that I did. What is Church is what is the name of the book, and the reason I wrote it was because I think people are confused, or they've been hurt and they turned off to it, and I get that. I've been hurt by the church, and hasn't everybody? And I think that's because we don't always do it right. We don't always we don't always do it the way that Jesus intended. So
Yeah.
those are the things that keep me going these days, and I get to travel a lot, doing that, which I really love, um, and get to go places that a lot of people don't go. This last year, we went to Samarkand, Uzbekistan, and man, that's one of the most fantastic places on earth.
Wow.
You should go
Yeah,
sometime.
that's
It's amazing.
fantastic. That's wonderful. And that is the best education you can get on this planet is to see other cultures and people and
It is.
beauty and all of that. That's
It
amazing.
is. I think that's one of the big problems in the church and with Christians, frankly, is especially Western Christians. We get stuck in kind of our version of Christianity, and we don't see what's going on around the world, and we don't understand history. We don't see the great things from the past, the various cultures. We don't do comparative study of religions and look at what matters to other people here on earth. We don't see the common humanity, and we don't see all the wonderful and beautiful things that are out there in the world. I wish people traveled more. I really do.
Yeah, I actually one of my guilty pleasures in life is to go into the dollar store and they have books that didn't sell well and I pick them up. And this book here is 99 Nights in Logar and it's about kids in Afghanistan and just kind
Uh-huh.
of that culture and how they grew up and I have no idea. And the fabric of what they're living through is all of these little vignettes of story that we hear in the news about, you know, just the value of life and how it works. It's radically different from America,
It's radically different.
and you're seeing that firsthand.
Yeah, people in America, I think they think that what we have here, what we experience here, that that's the norm for the world and that everybody's kind of like that. And they're not.
Yeah,
I mean, and the places they live and the way that they live, some of the governments like they have to live under. I mean, we can get really frustrated with our government, but you need to go some other places. You know what I'm
yeah,
saying?
absolutely,
um,
absolutely.
yeah,
Yeah,
I think I wish people would broaden their horizons a little
yeah.
bit more. And I'm a real history buff. I think we can learn a lot of lessons from history. And, you know, nobody, I mean, it's funny that I'm an author because I'm like, nobody's reading. So what am I writing? But anyway, hope the audiobook does well.
Oh yeah, I think all of it will for sure. So, of all of the things that you've done, become, overcome, and evolved to in your life, what are you the proudest of?
Yeah, I think I'm the proudest of being a husband to my wife for 45 years this year. Um, you know, that hadn't always been roses. Um, but like I said, we really loved each other through all of this. And um, today, I meet so many people, and I tell them, they ask me, or it comes up that I've been married and how long. You say 45 years. I mean, it's like, whoa,
Yeah,
you know, my parents actually made it to 75 years, and that almost, I mean, that never happens. And they fought like cats and dogs for about 70 of those, but they stuck together. And I think that kind of that commitment that to one another, um, the relationship that we have. I mean, I have a life partner that I share everything with, and that's really special. The other part of that is my wife and I were never able to have children of our own. Like I said, we became foster parents, and we've got a lot of kids. They're all grown now, but there's between that and working with the youth in our church, we just got a lot of kids. We've got a big family, and family is really, really important. Those are the things I think, if you can have good relationships and if you can have a family and have people that you love and that they love you back and you know you can depend on, I think those are the things that really matter in life.
for sure. So everyone has a perception of you. You have all these different roles that you play in life. Family, friends, clients, colleagues, but you run the show. What's your perception of you? Who do you think you are?
That's a good question. I think that first and foremost, I'm a child of God. And as long as I keep my eyes on him and try to do things his way, um, I think the rest of it kind of takes care of itself. Yeah, I've been in a lot of leadership roles all my life. You know, I mean, in the band, I was the drum major. I mean, I was a officer in school. I mean, I was the president of the choir when I was in college. I've run, I've been the owner, CEO, president of businesses. Entrepreneurially, I've had hundreds of people that were working for me. I've run big conferences, with 600 people. Uh, I pastored churches. I lead church networks. I've done a lot of things, and the most important thing about that, I think, is always trying to cultivate humility. When we are humble and when we recognize the dignity and the worth and the value of other people, I think that goes a long way in life. So what I try to see, I'm confident. I think confidence is important in your life, but I'm confident not in my own ability so much, although I realize that I have a lot of abilities. It's not that I'm confident in that. I'm confident in my relationship with God, and I do. I ask God every day to do whatever it takes to keep me humble, and you know what that requires? Humiliation. God always puts me in a place where I have to be humiliated, and you have to be willing to say, "I'm sorry,
Yeah.
I messed up," those kind of things. And a lot of people, I think, really struggle with that. But you can't be a good leader if you or don't own up to that stuff and go, "Hey, I don't have all the answers." And you can gather a team of people that can work together. And that's how I was successful in business. I think that's how I've been successful in pretty much every area of my life.
So if anyone wants to pick up your book, anybody wants to reach out to you, learn more about you, what's the best way to do that?
Okay, well, you can get the book anywhere. It's called What is Church? Matter of fact,
There we
ta-da,
go.
there it
I
is.
was hoping so.
Yeah,
Visuals are always good.
yeah. What is church? Got a big red question mark on the front of it. My name's weird. Dub. Dub is from William. Our part of the country, W,
Yeah.
Dub.
Uh-huh.
And it's a Dub. So you can get to me at Dub Karriker, and again, that's not easy.
We got it right there. We got the visual.
dubkarriker.com. The book is available everywhere. I mean, Amazon, Barnes and Noble, all of those. You could go to any bookseller, Target, Walmart, anything like that, and you can find the book.
Okay.
But you can get in touch with me. Go to dubkarriker.com. It's got my contact information, all that. I love having relationships with people. I love hearing from people, so that's the easiest way to contact me.
Wonderful, Dub. This has been great. Thank you, sir. I appreciate you opening up. I appreciate your story. Best of luck and keep on playing music in every way you do it.
Thanks, Joe. I really appreciate it. Next time I'm in Kansas City, we'll go to the Green Lady
Please
together,
do.
okay?
Absolutely. Reach out. I'd love to.
All right.
Thank you,
Thank,
sir. Have a
thank
good
you a
weekend.
lot.
Take care.